The unveiling of the Cybernetic Soldier program was a moment of both awe and trepidation for the global audience. In a grand military parade, the latest technological marvel of the armed forces was presented to the world, a towering figure in sleek, advanced combat armor, moving with a fluid grace that belied its sheer power. As the cybernetic soldier stepped forward, the crowd fell silent, captivated by the sight. General Takeda, the architect of the program, stepped up to the podium, his chest adorned with medals and his gaze steely with determination. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you see before you is the future of warfare," he proclaimed, his voice resonating through the speakers. "This cybernetic soldier represents the pinnacle of human and machine integration, designed to protect our nation and maintain the delicate balance of global security." Takeda went on to detail the extensive modifications and enhancements that transformed ordinary soldiers into these superhuman warriors. Genetically engineered to possess enhanced physical capabilities, the cybernetic soldiers were further augmented with the latest in cybernetic technology, reinforced skeletal structures, advanced neural interfaces, and weapon systems seamlessly integrated into their bodies. The crowd listened, both fascinated and unnerved by the implications of this new military might. Many wondered aloud about the ethical boundaries being crossed, the potential for abuse, and the unknown consequences of such powerful technology. As the presentation concluded, the cybernetic soldier demonstrated its prowess, effortlessly lifting a tank, sprinting at lightning speeds, and neutralizing simulated targets with pinpoint accuracy. The audience, a mix of awestruck onlookers and concerned citizens, erupted in a chorus of divided reactions. In the days that followed, the global media was abuzz with discussions about the cybernetic soldier program. Pundits debated the strategic advantages it offered, while human rights activists and ethicists raised alarm bells about the moral implications. Within the halls of power, the military brass and political leaders engaged in heated discussions, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. Some saw the cybernetic soldiers as the key to securing a decisive victory in the ongoing global conflict, while others voiced concerns about the slippery slope of dehumanizing warfare. Amid the cacophony of voices, one individual stood out, Subject 117, the first cybernetic soldier to be deployed. Trained from a young age, his body and mind had been meticulously engineered to become the ultimate weapon. He was the embodiment of the program's success, a living testament to the future of warfare. Yet as Subject 117 prepared for his first mission, a glimmer of uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The weight of responsibility and the moral ambiguity of his role weighed heavily on him. He had been conditioned to obey orders without question, but deep down he knew that the line between loyalty and humanity was a razor-thin one. As the world held its breath, waiting to see the true power of the cybernetic soldier, Subject 117 steeled his resolve, knowing that the fate of nations rested on his augmented shoulders. The future of warfare had arrived, and he was the one who would lead the charge into the unknown. Subject 117, code-named Atlas, stood at the ready, his cybernetically enhanced body humming with anticipation. The mission briefing had been clear: infiltrate the heavily fortified enemy territory, secure a strategic location, and eliminate any resistance. It was a high-stakes operation that would test the cybernetic soldier program to its limits. As Atlas received the final transmission from command, he took a deep breath, feeling the power coursing through his veins. With a nod, he stepped into the deployment pod, the doors hissing shut behind him. In a matter of seconds, the pod was launched, propelling him towards his target at breakneck speed. The descent was a blur, the G-forces exerting immense pressure on Atlas' body. But his cybernetic enhancements kept him stable, his enhanced senses heightening with each passing moment. As the pod pierced the atmosphere, he caught a glimpse of the enemy stronghold, a sprawling fortress, heavily guarded and impenetrable to ordinary soldiers. Moments before impact, Atlas triggered the pod's landing sequence, slowing his descent and cushioning the landing. The pod slammed into the ground, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. Atlas emerged unscathed, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to absorb the shock of the impact. With a quick survey of his surroundings, Atlas sprinted towards the fortress, his movements a blur of speed and precision. The enemy sentries barely had time to react before they were neutralized, their weapons useless against the cybernetic soldier's superior strength and agility. Navigating the maze-like corridors, Atlas encountered a series of automated defenses, each one more formidable than the last. Laser grids, pressure-sensitive mines, and advanced security systems attempted to impede his progress, but he evaded them with ease, his cybernetic enhancements granting him unparalleled control over his body and reflexes. As he drew closer to the objective, Atlas encountered the first true challenge, a heavily fortified checkpoint, manned by a squad of elite enemy soldiers. They opened fire, their weapons unleashing a hail of bullets, each one seemingly aimed with pinpoint accuracy. But Atlas was undeterred, his cybernetically enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge and weave through the barrage, closing the distance with lightning speed. In a matter of seconds, Atlas had neutralized the enemy soldiers, his enhanced strength and combat skills overwhelming their defenses. He paused for a brief moment, surveying the scene before him, his expression devoid of emotion. There was no hesitation, no remorse, only the cold, calculated efficiency of a cybernetic soldier. Pressing forward, Atlas reached the inner sanctum of the fortress, where the strategic location he had been tasked to secure was located. The room was heavily guarded, with multiple layers of security measures and a small army of elite soldiers. Without a moment's hesitation, Atlas launched his assault, his cybernetic enhancements granting him a decisive advantage. He moved with such speed and precision that the enemy soldiers barely had time to react. Bullets ricocheted off his reinforced armor, and his enhanced strength allowed him to overpower and neutralize even the most formidable opponents. As the last of the enemy forces fell, Atlas stood amidst the debris, his mission successfully completed. He took a moment to assess the damage, his gaze cold and calculating. The cybernetic soldier program had proven its worth, and Atlas knew that his actions would echo throughout the ongoing global conflict. With a silent nod, Atlas radioed in his report, his voice devoid of emotion. The future of warfare had been unveiled, and he was the living embodiment of its power. As he awaited extraction, Atlas couldn't help but wonder about the implications of his actions, the moral consequences that would inevitably follow. But for now, he had a duty to fulfill, and the world would bear witness to the might of the cybernetic soldier. As news of Atlas' successful mission spread, the global impact was immediate and profound. Footage of the cybernetic soldier's exploits quickly went viral, captivating audiences around the world. The sheer power and efficiency with which he had neutralized the enemy forces left many awestruck, while others watched with growing unease. In the enemy stronghold, the commander of the defeated forces could hardly believe his eyes. His best soldiers, highly trained and equipped with the latest weaponry, had been no match for the cybernetic soldier. The implications were staggering. If this technology were to be deployed on a larger scale, it could potentially turn the tide of the entire conflict. Urgently, the enemy leadership convened a high-level meeting, their faces etched with a mix of fear and determination. They knew that they had to act quickly, lest the cybernetic soldier program give their adversaries an insurmountable advantage. "We must develop countermeasures immediately," the defense minister declared, slamming his fist on the table. "This cybernetic soldier cannot be allowed to roam unchecked. Our very survival depends on it." The room erupted in a flurry of discussions, with military strategists and scientists proposing various solutions. Some advocated for the development of advanced anti-personnel weapons designed specifically to neutralize the cybernetic soldier's enhanced capabilities. Others suggested exploring the possibility of hacking into the cybernetic soldier's systems, turning the technology against its creators. As the debate raged on, a lone voice emerged, cutting through the chaos. "We must not merely react to this threat," the chief scientist said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We must match it and surpass it." The room fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. The enemy leadership realized that the only way to counter the cybernetic soldier was to develop their own version of the technology, sparking a new and dangerous arms race. Mobilizing their resources, the enemy forces poured massive investments into their own cybernetic enhancement program. Teams of the brightest minds were assembled, tasked with reverse engineering the cybernetic soldier's technology and pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Time was of the essence, and the pressure mounted as reports of Atlas' continued exploits spread. The cybernetic soldier had become a symbol of the global conflict, a living embodiment of the military's technological superiority. As the two sides raced to gain the upper hand, the world watched with bated breath, uncertain of the consequences. Ethical concerns were raised, with many questioning the morality of turning human beings into weapons of war. But the relentless pursuit of military dominance drowned out these voices as the conflict escalated into a high-stakes game of technological one-upmanship. In the midst of this technological arms race, Atlas continued to carry out his missions, his cybernetically enhanced body and mind proving to be an unparalleled asset on the battlefield. He moved with a grace and precision that defied the limitations of the human form, his actions leaving a trail of awe and terror in his wake. Yet, as Atlas witnessed the growing devastation and the ever-widening chasm between the warring factions, a seed of doubt began to take root in his mind. The moral implications of his role as a cybernetic soldier weighed heavily on him, and he found himself questioning the very purpose of his existence. In the end, the global conflict had become a clash not just of military might, but of ideologies, with the cybernetic soldier standing at the center of it all. The future of warfare had arrived, and the world was about to bear witness to the consequences of such a profound and unsettling transformation. As Atlas carried out mission after mission, the toll of his actions began to weigh heavily on his conscience. The faces of the fallen enemy soldiers haunted his thoughts, and the growing unease about the moral implications of the cybernetic soldier program gnawed at his resolve. During a rare moment of respite, Atlas stood alone in the sterile halls of the military complex, his augmented senses heightened as he processed the events that had unfolded. He had been trained to be the ultimate weapon, to serve without question, but the weight of responsibility had become increasingly unbearable. Replaying the images of his past missions, Atlas could see the fear and desperation in the eyes of his targets. They were not mere faceless enemies, but human beings with lives and loved ones, caught in the crossfire of a conflict far beyond their control. The realization that he had taken these lives, no matter how necessary the mission, filled him with a profound sense of guilt and inner turmoil. Subject 117, report to the command center immediately. A voice crackled over the intercom, breaking the stillness of the moment. Atlas took a deep breath, steeling himself for the task ahead, but a seed of doubt had already been planted in his mind. As he made his way to the command center, he couldn't help but wonder if the cybernetic soldier program had crossed a line, one that threatened to erode the very humanity it was meant to protect. In the command center, General Takeda, the architect of the cybernetic soldier program, stood waiting, his expression stern and unyielding. "Atlas, we have a critical mission for you," Takeda said, his voice devoid of emotion. "Intelligence has uncovered the location of a high-value enemy target. Your objective is to infiltrate the target's compound and eliminate them." Atlas listened, his enhanced senses heightening as Takeda laid out the details of the mission. The stakes were high, and the success of the operation could shift the balance of the ongoing conflict. But as Takeda finished, Atlas found himself hesitating, his mind racing with questions and moral quandaries. "General, I'm not sure I can complete this mission," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Takeda's eyes narrowed, and a flash of anger crossed his features. "What do you mean, you're not sure?" he demanded. "You are a cybernetic soldier, a weapon designed to serve the greater good. Your duty is to follow orders, no matter the cost." Atlas felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over him. He had been conditioned to obey without question, but the weight of his actions had become too heavy to bear. I've seen the consequences of my actions," he said, his voice tinged with emotion. "The lives I've taken, the suffering I've caused. I can't do this anymore." Takeda's expression hardened, and he leaned in, his eyes fixed on Atlas with an unwavering intensity. "You are not a human, Subject 117, he said, his voice laced with contempt. "You are a cybernetic soldier, a tool to be wielded in the service of our nation. Your feelings, your doubts, they are irrelevant. You will complete this mission, or you will be decommissioned." Atlas felt a chill run down his spine at Takeda's words. The realization that he was not seen as a human being, but rather as a disposable tool, cut him to the core. He had been trained to suppress his emotions, to put the mission first, but now, faced with the gravity of his actions, he found himself struggling to maintain his composure. Torn between his duty and his newfound moral convictions, Atlas stood silent, the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders. The future of the cybernetic soldier program hung in the balance, and the consequences of his choice would reverberate far beyond the walls of the command center. As the tension in the room reached a fever pitch, Atlas knew that the time had come to make a stand, to confront the moral conundrum that had been consuming him. The fate of the war, and perhaps the very future of humanity, rested on his decision. The news of the cybernetic soldier program had quickly spread throughout the global community, sparking a firestorm of debate and controversy. While military experts lauded the technological advancements and the potential strategic advantages, a growing chorus of voices raised concerns about the ethical implications of such a profound transformation of warfare. Across the world, protests erupted, with citizens taking to the streets to voice their opposition to the cybernetic soldier. Banners and placards were held high, their messages denouncing the dehumanization of soldiers and the dangers of unchecked military power. These cybernetic soldiers are nothing more than soulless killing machines, one protester shouted, her voice rising above the din of the crowd. They have stripped away the very essence of what it means to be human, turning our brave men and women into disposable weapons. The public outcry resonated, finding an echo in the halls of government and international organizations. Politicians, human rights advocates, and religious leaders all weighed in, calling for a thorough examination of the cybernetic soldier program and its potential for abuse. We cannot ignore the moral and ethical questions that this technology raises, declared the UN Secretary-General, her brow furrowed with concern. The integration of man and machine, while potentially advantageous in the short term, opens the door to a future where the sanctity of human life is undermined and the very foundations of our society are threatened. As the debate raged on, the military leadership found itself besieged, forced to defend the cybernetic soldier program against the growing tide of public opposition. General Takeda, the architect of the program, found himself at the center of the storm, his once unassailable position now threatened by the rising tide of public sentiment. The cybernetic soldier is not a soulless killing machine, Takeda argued, his voice firm and unyielding. It is the embodiment of our nation's technological prowess, a tool to be wielded in the service of peace and security. Without it, we would be at the mercy of our enemies, vulnerable to their aggression and their own advancements in this field. But the public remained unconvinced, their concerns echoed by a growing number of political leaders and international organizations. The pressure mounted as calls for the demilitarization of the cybernetic soldier program grew louder and more insistent. In the midst of this turmoil, Atlas found himself torn between his duty to the military and the growing doubts that gnawed at his conscience. The weight of the lives he had taken, the suffering he had caused, had become a constant presence in his mind, haunting his every step. As he stood in the command center, the heated exchange between Takeda and the growing chorus of critics played out before him. He felt a sense of unease settle in the pit of his stomach. He knew that the decision he had made to refuse the order to eliminate the high-value target had placed him on a collision course with the very system that had created him. The consequences of his actions were now becoming clear as the cybernetic soldier program found itself at the center of a global debate that threatened to unravel the delicate balance of power. Atlas knew that his decision would have far-reaching implications, not just for his own future, but for the future of the entire cybernetic soldier program. As the tension in the room reached a fever pitch, Atlas steeled himself, his enhanced senses heightening as he prepared to make his voice heard. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with uncertainty, but he also knew that he could no longer remain silent, that the price of his silence would be too high to bear. With a deep breath, Atlas stepped forward, his gaze fixed on Takeda, and in a voice that carried the weight of his convictions, he spoke. General, I cannot complete this mission. The lives I have taken have become a burden too heavy to bear. I cannot continue to be a part of this program, not when it has come at such a tremendous cost to my own humanity. The command center fell silent, the gravity of Atlas' words hanging in the air like a palpable force. The future of the cybernetic soldier program, and perhaps the course of the entire war, now rested on the decision that would follow. The command center erupted into chaos as Atlas voiced his refusal to carry out the high-value target mission. General Takeda's face contorted with a mix of anger and disbelief, his fist slamming against the table with a resounding thud. This is unacceptable, Subject 117. Takeda bellowed, his voice laced with venom. You are a cybernetic soldier, a weapon designed to serve the greater good. Your personal feelings have no place here. You will carry out this mission, or you will be decommissioned. Atlas stood his ground, his enhanced senses heightened as he met Takeda's furious gaze with a calm, unwavering resolve. I cannot, General, he said, his voice steady and unwavering. The lives I've taken have already weighed heavily on my conscience. I will not be responsible for the death of another innocent person. The room erupted in a cacophony of voices, with the assembled military personnel and technicians debating the implications of Atlas' defiance. Some argued for his immediate termination, while others urged Takeda to reconsider, fearing the public backlash that such an action would inevitably bring. Amidst the chaos, Atlas caught sight of a familiar face, Dr. Amelia Sandoval, the chief scientist behind the cybernetic soldier program. Her expression was unreadable, but in her eyes, Atlas could see a glimmer of understanding. As the debate raged on, Amelia raised her hand, silencing the room with a subtle gesture. General Takeda, if I may, she said, her voice calm and measured. Perhaps we should consider a different approach here. Subject 117 has proven himself to be an invaluable asset on the battlefield, and his enhanced capabilities are truly unparalleled. Decommissioning him would be a grave loss for our program. Takeda's eyes narrowed, and he turned to Amelia, his expression one of barely contained fury. "You can't be serious, Amelia," he spat. This _thing_ has disobeyed a direct order. It has no place in my army, no matter how valuable it may be." Amelia held up a hand, silencing Takeda with a firm gesture. "I understand your concerns, General, but hear me out. What if we could find a way to address Subject 117's moral reservations, to alleviate the burden he carries?" She paused, her gaze shifting to Atlas. "Perhaps we could give him the opportunity to truly make a difference, to use his abilities to protect the innocent, rather than eliminate them." The room fell silent as Amelia's words sank in. Atlas, too, found himself caught off guard by the scientist's unexpected proposal. He had fully expected to be decommissioned, or perhaps even terminated, for his defiance, but now a glimmer of hope had been ignited within him. Takeda's brow furrowed as he considered Amelia's words, the gears in his mind turning. "And what exactly do you have in mind, Doctor?" he asked, his tone laced with skepticism. Amelia leaned forward, her expression earnest. "I propose that we assign Subject 117 to a new, highly sensitive mission, one that would allow him to use his skills to protect, rather than destroy, a mission that would require him to infiltrate the enemy's stronghold and gather critical intelligence, without resorting to lethal force." The room erupted in murmurs as Amelia's suggestion sank in. Some of the military personnel exchanged uncertain glances, while others seemed intrigued by the prospect. Takeda, however, remained silent, his gaze fixed on Atlas with an intensity that made the cybernetic soldier's circuits hum with unease. After what felt like an eternity, Takeda nodded, a glimmer of reluctant acceptance in his eyes. "Very well, Doctor. We'll give your proposal a chance." He turned to Atlas, his expression hardening. "But know this, Subject 117, if you so much as put a toe out of line, I'll have you decommissioned faster than you can blink. Am I understood?" Atlas met Takeda's gaze, his own resolve unwavering. "Understood, General." The words were laced with a newfound determination, a resolve to prove that the cybernetic soldier program could be a force for good, even in the midst of the relentless conflict that gripped the world. As the room cleared and the dust settled, Atlas found himself alone with Amelia, the weight of his decision still heavy on his mind. "Thank you, Doctor," he said, his voice tinged with gratitude. I don't know what to say." Amelia offered him a small, understanding smile. "You don't have to say anything, Atlas. Just promise me that you'll use your abilities to make a difference, to protect the innocent, and to uphold the true spirit of what it means to be human." Atlas nodded, his enhanced senses already attuned to the challenges that lay ahead. The future of the cybernetic soldier program, and perhaps the fate of the entire war, now rested on his shoulders. But this time he was determined to forge a new path, one that would redefine the role of the cybernetic soldier and the very nature of warfare itself. As word of Atlas' refusal to carry out the high-value target mission spread, the global response was a mixture of awe, apprehension, and hope. The public, already divided over the ethical implications of the cybernetic soldier program, found themselves captivated by the unexpected twist in the narrative. For some, Atlas' defiance was a beacon of hope, a sign that the cybernetic soldier was not merely a soulless killing machine, but a being with a conscience and the capacity for moral reasoning. They saw in him the potential for the program to be steered towards more altruistic ends, a future where these enhanced warriors could be used to protect the innocent, rather than to destroy. Others, however, remained deeply skeptical, fearing that Atlas' actions were merely a temporary aberration, and that the cybernetic soldier program would ultimately succumb to the corrosive influence of military power and the relentless pursuit of technological dominance. As the debate raged on, the world's governments found themselves grappling with the implications of Atlas' decision. Some called for the immediate suspension of the cybernetic soldier program, while others argued that it was a necessary evil in the face of the ongoing global conflict. In the halls of power, the political machinations intensified as leaders from various nations jockeyed for position, seeking to leverage the cybernetic soldier program to their own advantage. Alliances were forged and broken, as the world teetered on the brink of an unprecedented technological arms race. At the heart of this turmoil stood Atlas, his enhanced senses attuned to the shifting tides of global politics. He had been given a second chance, opportunity to prove that the cybernetic soldier program could be a force for good. But the weight of this responsibility weighed heavily on him, as he knew that the consequences of his actions would reverberate far beyond the confines of the military complex. As Amelia had promised, Atlas was assigned to a new, highly sensitive mission, one that would require him to infiltrate the enemy's stronghold and gather critical intelligence without resorting to lethal force. It was a delicate balancing act, as he would have to navigate the treacherous terrain of enemy defenses while upholding his newfound moral convictions. Donning a specialized stealth suit, Atlas embarked on his mission, his every move calculated with meticulous precision. He moved through the enemy's well-guarded corridors, his cybernetically enhanced senses providing him with a distinct advantage. Where once he would have neutralized any threat that stood in his way, he now found himself relying on his agility, his cunning, and his ability to avoid detection. As he drew closer to his objective, Atlas encountered a series of unexpected challenges. The enemy forces had grown increasingly wary, their defenses enhanced with advanced countermeasures specifically designed to thwart the cybernetic soldier's capabilities. But Atlas was undeterred, his mind racing as he devised innovative solutions to overcome these obstacles. He utilized his enhanced strength and speed to navigate treacherous terrain, and his cybernetic interface allowed him to hack into the enemy's systems, disabling their defenses without causing any casualties. With each successful maneuver, Atlas's confidence grew, as did the glimmer of hope that perhaps the cybernetic soldier program could be redeemed, that it could be molded into a force for good rather than destruction. As he neared his final objective, Atlas encountered a surprising ally, a group of resistance fighters who had been working tirelessly to undermine the enemy's regime from within. Recognizing the potential in Atlas's abilities, they forged an unlikely alliance, working together to gather the critical intelligence that could turn the tide of the conflict. In the end, Atlas's mission was a resounding success, the valuable data he had gathered proving to be a crucial asset in the ongoing war. But the significance of his actions went far beyond the military implications. It represented a fundamental shift in the role of the cybernetic soldier, a testament to the power of redemption and the resilience of the human spirit. As Atlas emerged from the enemy stronghold, his enhanced senses attuned to the shifting global dynamics, he knew that the world was watching, waiting to see the outcome of this unprecedented experiment. The future of the cybernetic soldier program, and perhaps the very course of the war, now rested on his shoulders, and he was determined to prove that the path of moral redemption was not only possible, but necessary. In the aftermath of Atlas's successful intelligence-gathering mission, the global landscape had shifted dramatically. The data he had secured proved to be a game-changer, providing crucial insights into the enemy's strategic plans and vulnerabilities. Military leaders and political decision-makers scrambled to leverage this newfound advantage, seizing the opportunity to turn the tide of the ongoing conflict. But the true impact of Atlas's actions extended far beyond the confines of the battlefield. The story of the cybernetic soldier who had defied his orders and chosen the path of moral redemption had captivated the world, sparking a renewed debate about the ethics of advanced military technology and the role of the individual in shaping the future of warfare. In the halls of power, political leaders found themselves grappling with the implications of Atlas's example. Some advocated for the immediate demilitarization of the cybernetic soldier program, arguing that the risks of such technology outweighed its potential benefits. Others, however, recognized the strategic value of the cybernetic soldier and sought to harness its capabilities in a more ethical and responsible manner. Amid the intense discussions and negotiations, a new vision for the cybernetic soldier program began to emerge, one that placed the protection of human life and the preservation of fundamental rights at the forefront of its mission. Under the guidance of Dr. Amelia Sandoval and a team of like-minded scientists and ethicists, the program underwent a radical transformation, shifting its focus from military dominance to humanitarian aid and disaster relief. Atlas, once a symbol of the program's unbridled power, now found himself at the center of this new initiative. Hailed as a hero, he became the face of a movement that sought to redefine the role of the cybernetic soldier, transforming them from instruments of destruction into vessels of hope and compassion. As the cybernetic soldier program evolved, so too did the global response. Governments and international organizations that had once viewed the technology with suspicion and fear now recognized its potential to address pressing humanitarian crises and respond to natural disasters with unprecedented speed and efficiency. Across the world, cybernetic soldiers were deployed to provide disaster relief, aid in the aftermath of devastating conflicts, and assist in the reconstruction of war-torn regions. Their enhanced capabilities allowed them to navigate treacherous terrain, rescue trapped civilians, and deliver vital supplies to isolated communities with unparalleled precision and efficiency. The stories of the cybernetic soldiers' heroic deeds began to circulate, capturing the imagination of a global audience and inspiring a new generation of young men and women to join the ranks of this transformed program. The once feared soulless killing machines had become symbols of hope and resilience, their advanced technology now harnessed in the service of the greater good. As the world watched the cybernetic soldier program's transformation, other human settlements scattered across the galaxy took notice. Intrigued by the stories of Atlas and his comrades, they reached out, seeking to establish connections and learn from the innovations that had taken place. Under the leadership of Dr. Sandoval, and with the support of global governments and international organizations, the cybernetic soldier program began to expand its reach, establishing partnerships and forging alliances with these distant human colonies. The exchange of knowledge and technology sparked a new era of collaboration, as the once isolated settlements found themselves united by a common cause: the pursuit of a future where humanity's potential was not defined by the narrow confines of war, but by its collective capacity for innovation, compassion, and progress. In the years that followed, the cybernetic soldier program became a beacon of hope, a symbol of the human spirit's resilience and the power of redemption. At last, the once conflicted warrior had become a respected leader, guiding his fellow cybernetic soldiers in their mission to protect the innocent and reshape the course of history. As the global conflict slowly faded into the distant past, the world came to terms with the profound impact of the cybernetic soldier program's transformation. What had once been viewed as a threat to humanity's very essence had now become a testament to the boundless potential of human ingenuity and the unwavering commitment to a better future. In the end, the story of the cybernetic soldier was not one of military dominance, but of moral redemption, of the power of the human spirit to overcome the most daunting challenges and forge a path towards a more just and peaceful world. And at the heart of this narrative stood Atlas, a living embodiment of the hope and promise that the cybernetic soldier program had come to